My name is Fred Fordin. I am the franchisee for the state of Tennessee, and in recent times I have become the master franchisee for Tennessee. I have two locations in the state of Tennessee, one in suburban Memphis and one in downtown Nashville. I've been studying the state very carefully for the last 3 years. Actually, today is the 3-year anniversary of the opening of my first store. And so I've invested a lot of time and energy into studying the markets in Tennessee. We feel that the state can hold comfortably 25 to 30 locations. And so that is our long-term goal. One thing that any prospective franchisee should be looking at right now is that, I chose to get into Rise while it was still in its infancy. And so what that meant was I had to go through the ride with Rise Corporate of trying different things, changing food products, changing menus repeatedly. We tried all kinds of things. Today, we can look back at a solid year plus of incredibly profitable operations because they've nailed down the timing. They've nailed down the manpower needs. They've nailed down the processes and procedures. The amount of delivery today is extraordinary. And even the process of being able to have that perfected so that the food still goes out hot, customers are happy upon delivery. In the earlier times, you'd get a call from a customer that the food arrived and it was cold. Well, it was taking 30 minutes between the time the food was ready and a driver delivered it. Of course, the food was cold. Now we've got heated storage units for the drivers to pick up from, and the drivers have become more familiar with our processes when they come in, so they're not waiting around. Everything about the system has just been nailed down to something that's as close to perfection as you can get. And so every bit of that affected the bottom line. All of the things that go into making a solid operation have really been perfected by Rise Corporate. And so I was happy to take my franchise agreement and invest and convert it into a master agreement because of all of those changes that they undertook. So one of the big things that I'm going to say to you as a franchisee is that this works. Think about being able to invest in a restaurant, run a business where you're home by 3:30 in the afternoon, making 150, 200 grand a year, and you're having dinner with your family every night. You're not losing all of the parties on the weekends. You're not losing the kids' graduations. All of the things that you're able to do and still run a very successful business. One part of the model that really stands out for me. I built a 1,450 square foot restaurant in a great shopping center in suburban Memphis. That store is extraordinarily profitable. It's not an easy store to access from the road, but it's sitting on the busiest corner in this town, and so it's got the visibility. At the same time, I've got a store in downtown Nashville. You can throw a baseball from Broadway and hit our store. I spent an extra $1 million building a second floor so that we would have seating for 50 people, thinking that downtown Nashville was different than every other location. And guess what? I wasted $1 million. The truth of the matter is, I wasted that $1 million because Rise has now gotten to a point where in a minimum amount of square footage, you can create maximum dollars. There's a store that corporate owns in Durham, North Carolina, that's doing bigger numbers out of 1,200 square feet than I'm doing out of downtown Nashville with now 2,400 square feet. So we've actually proven the model. And unfortunately, as a franchisee, I was the one that proved we don't need to go that big. We don't need that kind of expense. I'm proud of this store that I've got down there. It's doing good business, but I won't invest at that size again. There's no reason to do it. Tom and the crew at Rise have proven that 1,200 to 1,500 square feet, you can have a killer business and keep your expenses really low. This type of entry into the restaurant business is really different and unique. And the reason is you have the opportunity to both keep a lifestyle and build wealth from it. There aren't many places on the planet where you can go invest $300,000 and make a 50% ROI in year one. And so, if you're planning for long-term growth and you're looking for long-term wealth, you invest in that first store, You let that first store generate the money to create the second store, and so on and so forth. And 6 years down the road, your $300,000 investment could be worth millions and millions of dollars to somebody wanting to buy your small group of 5 or 6 stores. And so as a wealth creation tool, this is a really, really strong strategy. It's the reason I got into it, and I already had millions of dollars, but that money could sit in the bank and earn me a very, very meager 5 to 6% in the stock market, or I put it into Rise and I'm making multiples on my money at a rate that I could never do in the market. And so, great long-term investment strategy. So in the way of advice, if you're thinking about becoming a Rise franchisee, there's a few different things that I would offer you. The first would be, if you're doing this to buy a job, think very carefully about what you're doing. If you're doing it as a long-term investment strategy, that's a solid reason to be doing this. A, you're looking for long-term passive income without having to spend a lot of time managing the process. B, you're looking for something you can build and sell. It's all about exit strategy. Great way to go about it. The advice that I'd give you to meet those ends would be, A, make sure you're coming in with your eyes wide open. You got to listen carefully. If you're investing in Tennessee, you not only have the Rise franchise team, you also have my team, which has succeeded at operating franchises in the state of Tennessee. If you're going outside of the state of Tennessee, you've got the Rise team. Follow their lead. Do everything they do in the corporate stores. Don't be creative with ideas. That's not going to get you where you want to be. What you want to do is be a really good student of the process. And if you follow that process and you do exactly what you're taught, and you follow the guidelines, you follow the recipes, when they decide to make a change, they didn't make that change lightly. They tried it out in their corporate stores for months before they say, this is a winning formula, let's adjust this. You got to trust that, and you got to follow them down that road. Your long-term picture is bright and sunny with this franchise. You can't help but win. The Rise system has done an extraordinary job of partnering with great technology partners, bringing in really strong point of sale system, being able to automate all of the various delivery companies directly into that system. Things appear when and where they need to, and not anywhere else. The locker systems for delivery, everything's been run like a mechanical engineer had designed it. It's all about what's the next natural right step to take so that it serves the customer, it serves the company, it serves the franchisee, and everybody's happy. And that's been done at a really extraordinary level.